Hi guys, this is Jason. First off, I want to just say thank you to everybody that helped to pull this off. You guys are amazing. I'm overwhelmed with everything you were able to accomplish. I hope that you guys are having a great time. I heard that the food there is awesome. Meanwhile, I'm here at the hospital eating hospital food, and there's no beer. I'd like to tell you about my journey. Flashback to 2009, I go to the hospital because I was told at a walk-in clinic that I had a really extreme case of pneumonia. After a series of tests and getting to meet Dr. Serriera, I found out that I had T-cell lymphoma. That was the very first time that I ever actually felt God's hand on my shoulder. I knew everything was going to be fine one way or another. My next words to the doctor were, "What do we do? And let's get going." I then went through 8 brutal chemo treatments that lasted over a course of 24 weeks. As soon as I completed the chemo treatments, I went to Tampa and received a bone marrow transplant using my own bone marrow in place of a donor. They removed it, cleaned it, and then put it back in. So I went to Tampa and started receiving chemo there that would completely wipe out my bone marrow. Week 1 was spent getting my white blood count down to 0. Week 2 was spent recovering, and just when you have enough immune system back so that you can technically survive outside the hospital, they let you go home. Which is not really home. It's a hotel that's about a mile away from the hospital. And even then, you're very limited as to what you can eat and what you can do. Your strength and endurance is fading. You have to force yourself to walk and move and do anything because your body just wants to shut down. But I always had Becky there to walk with. She's amazing. After about 2 months of living in the hotel, I was finally allowed to go home and live in my real house. It was great to get back to seeing the boys and Becky on a daily basis and slowly get better and back to life. Before I left Tampa, I remember Dr. Ayala giving me a bunch of stats on the survival stuff, and the only one that really stood out to me was after 5 years, as long as the T-cell lymphoma hasn't come back, it's pretty much unheard of getting it again. And I broke that 5-year mark. That's a stat I will never forget. This brings us to today. 6 years and 2 months, almost to the day I went in for a horrible back pain. I got an MRI, and I learned that they had found some abnormalities in my bone marrow. They ordered a bone marrow biopsy, and 2 days later, I found out they found cancer cells. When the doctor came to tell me, bless his heart, he sat down and very seriously, he put his hand on my leg. It was obvious that the news wasn't good. And said, "I'm afraid I have to tell you that the bone marrow biopsy has come back positive for AML leukemia." I literally LOL'd. It probably wasn't the right reaction, but I literally laughed out loud. I knew God had helped me through the first one, and I knew that He was going to help me through this also. I think my reaction surprised Him and made him feel better at the same time. But it didn't last too long because he was going to have to talk to the girls also. Maggie and Becky, who did not take it as well as I did. I pulled Becky close and said, "You know that I'm going to fight this." I want to thank all of you for going on this journey with me. I know that this is not in my control, but I also know that God has a plan. There is a definite peace in my heart. So I know no matter what, everything's going to be fine. I just want to thank you again for coming. and enjoy the rest of the evening, and God bless.